Welcome to the Humanergy Leadership Podcast, where we tackle your toughest leadership challenges and share practical tools to help you lead with impact. Well, welcome to this episode of the Humanergy Leadership Podcast. This one's titled Roundabouts and Stop Signs as a Modern Business Challenge, and it builds on an episode that happened just around Christmas time with Judy Brown and Rick Eigenbrod. I think it was episode 235. I'm David Wheatley, your host for today, and thinking about roundabouts and stop signs, well, they both serve the same ultimate purpose, getting you through an intersection without a collision. Roundabouts and four-way stops operate on a fundamentally different philosophy. One relies on interruption, while the other relies on flow. The primary difference lies in how traffic is managed. Four-way stop is a stop and go system, whereas a roundabout is a yield and go system. Stay with me while I explain this. So safety is where roundabouts truly shine, though. They often feel more intimidating to new drivers. In a standard four-way intersection, there's actually 32 potential conflict points, places where vehicles can crash. And in a roundabout, that number drops to 8. Because everybody is moving in the same direction, the possibility of head-on or T-bone collision is virtually eliminated. If someone runs a stop sign, the result is often a high-speed 90-degree impact or a head-on collision. These are the most lethal types of accident. The geometry of a roundabout forces drivers to slow down, usually 15 to 20 miles per hour. And if a crash does occur, it's typically a low-speed side swipe or glancing blow, which rarely result in serious injury. Beyond safety, there's massive environmental and time differences. Four-way stops require every car to come to a complete halt, even if no one else is at the intersection. This wastes fuel, increases emissions. Roundabouts, however, allow cars to maintain some momentum. According to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, replacing stop signs or signals with roundabouts reduces vehicle delays by between 62 and 74%. Now, I acknowledge while roundabouts are objectively safer, they do have a steeper learning curve. I found that being an Englishman in America. Minor fender benders can actually increase temporarily when a community first installs a roundabout, but the number of fatalities almost always drops by about 90%. So how does this apply to business? I hear you saying. Well, applying the physics to business operations reveals a lot about why some companies feel stalled, while others seem to move with effortless momentum. In a professional context, these aren't just road designs, they're governance models. The four-way stop represents a highly centralized, bureaucratic process. Everyone must come to a complete halt and wait for their turn, or for a specific authority to signal them forward. For example, the stop sign requires sign-offs for multiple department heads for minor expenses. The queue, a centralized ticketing system where every task, regardless of urgency, sits in a linear line. The conflict, who got here first syndrome, teams fight over resources based on an arrival time rather than the value of their vehicle or the project. This roundabout represents decentralized, flow-based operations. It relies on clear rules, the yield, and constant movement rather than a rigid stopping point. The yield, instead of waiting for a go signal, employees are empowered to act as long as they aren't colliding with somebody already in the process. They're provided with big picture in order to guide the flow. This flow is the information moves in a circle where everyone can see the traffic or the project status and merge in when there's an opening. Low-speed fender benders or minor mistakes happen because people are moving fast, but fatalities, project failures, are rare because the system doesn't allow for high-speed, head-on disasters. We can also see this in the agile approach to software development. So to transition from a stop-and-go culture to a flow-based one, leaders can adopt 3 specific strategies. Firstly, replace permissions with yields. In a four-way stop, you can't move until it's your turn. In a roundabout, you move if the coast is clear. Give your team check, then go authority. Instead of asking, can I do this? The rule becomes, I am doing this unless I see a conflict with an existing priority. And this keeps momentum alive. 2, simplify the conflict points. As I said, that roundabouts in the research are safer because they reduce 32 conflict points to 8. Audit your meetings and approval chains. If a document needs 10 signatures, you have 10 conflict points where the project could die. Aim to reduce these touch points to an absolute minimum necessary to prevent a crash. 3. Design for low-speed iteration. Roundabouts work because they force cars to slow down slightly to enter. Don't aim for 100 miles an hour on a project if it requires a stop sign every mile to check for safety. Aim for a steady 30 miles an hour where the team can make real-time adjustments without stopping the entire engine. This is the essence of agile methodology. So a four-way stop feels safer to a micromanager because they can see every car stopped. A roundabout feels chaotic because everything is moving. However, the roundabout gets 70% more people to their destination faster with fewer injuries. To help you transition your team from the stop-and-go culture to a flow-based one, we can build a yield-based decision framework. This shifts the burden of movement from the manager, the traffic light, to the individual, the contributor, the driver. The goal is to keep vehicles moving unless there is a clear, immediate reason to stop. The framework allows team members to move forward on tasks without waiting for formal meeting or a green light, provided they follow these 3 checks. First, the clearance check. Is the lane open? Before starting a new initiative, the team member must look at the current traffic. If the task doesn't conflict with the top 3 quarterly priorities, the lane is clear. Proceed without asking, simply log the start in a shared project tracker. 2, the merging rule. Who has the right of way? In a roundabout, you yield to those already in the circle. If your project requires resources, time, budget, or people, already committed to a moving project, you must yield. Negotiate directly with the project's owner in the circle to see if there's a gap you can merge into. Only involve leadership if a collision or a deadlock occurs. 3, the speed limit. So low stakes iterations. Roundabouts only work because everyone slows down to a manageable speed. Any decision that is reversible and costs less than X dollars or X hours is a low speed decision. Take the turn. Don't stop to ask for permission. If it's a high speed decision, irreversible or high cost, that is your stop sign. Bring it to the board or your leadership. So how do we implement more roundabouts? First thing is to purposely build circles. You cannot have a roundabout without a clear view of the traffic. You must have a shared real-time dashboard, something like Trello, Asana, Monday.com, where everyone can see what's currently in the circle and what is the overarching picture of success, what we're trying to achieve. 2, define the exit ramp. Be very clear about what a finished project looks like in a roundabout. If you don't know your exit, you just keep on spinning. And 3, celebrate glancing blows. In this system, people will occasionally make small mistakes because they are moving autonomously. Treat these as low-speed sideswipes, fix the dent, learn from the merge, and keep the traffic moving. Now, this is a significant shift for many leaders. The move from being a police officer on point duty, directing traffic, to the city planner, providing the big picture and pushing decisions down to the local level. Stop being the bottleneck in your own success. In a 4-way stop, the system only moves as fast as the person with the stop sign allows. When you insist on every decision crossing your desk, you aren't ensuring safety, you're manufacturing delay. Replace one approval with yield this week. That's my challenge to you. Identify a recurring decision that currently requires your sign-off, redefine it, tell the team they have the right of way to proceed as long as they don't collide with predefined set of 3 strategic priorities. If the lane is clear, they move. And then build the circle and then step out of it. A roundabout only works if the driver sees the traffic. Your job is to create radical transparency. Create a shared dashboard where every vehicle or project is visible to everyone. Once the team can see the flow, they will naturally learn to merge, yield, and exit without blowing a whistle. What are your stop signs? And how are you going to turn them into roundabouts? That was the Humanergy Leadership Podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe and visit humanergy.com for many more resources.